In part 5 of this series, we discussed about a point-to-site VPN connection, which is a connection between a computer and Azure Cloud. And back in that time, we said that if you want to have a successful connection of this type, then you need to make sure that the certificate is installed on every client computer. Now, I want to go a bit further and to discuss about a very similar situation, and which is very likely to see in the exam day. And actually what I wanted to do here is to represent them side to side so that you can clearly spot the difference, especially that during the exam day, maybe you are nervous, maybe you forget things, or maybe you just mix them. So in this way, I think it's a bit easier for you to remember and to understand. So in the first box here, we have a point-to-site VPN connection. So as I've already said, this is a connection between a computer one and a virtual network. On the right side, we have a site-to-site VPN connection, which is a connection between on-premises servers and virtual network. In the first case, as I already mentioned, you need to make sure that you have installed the exported client certificate on your computer. Here, in the second scenario, you need to make sure that you have a VPN gateway. So a local VPN gateway. And I've noticed that they like this question and this concept actually, because if I remember well, I've seen 3 or 4 times this question appeared. So make sure you know it. And if we go to the documentation, so as usual, to Microsoft documentation, create a site-to-site connection in Azure portal. So we can see here that in order to connect your on-premises site and a VNet, so Azure Cloud, you need to make sure that you have a VPN. So regarding VPN connections, I'd like to discuss now about VNet to VNet connections. And for that, VNet to VNet VPN connection actually. And for that, we have two VNets, 1 and 2. This is for the sake of simplification, as you're already used to. And VNet 1 has a subnet A, and please pay attention that this subnet takes all the address space that the VNet 1 has. So it has exactly the same address range here. VNet 2 has two subnets, AA and AB, which each of them has these address ranges. Now, what you need to know is that if you want to establish a VNet to VNet VPN connection between these two VNets, you're gonna need a special subnet, which is called gateway subnet. And Azure recommends that you reserve /27 or /28 CIDR blocks for this subnet. As I already pointed out, the subnet A takes all the space that VNet 1 has, so the creation of a new subnet is unfortunately not possible. So a VPN connection between these two VNets is also not possible. This is something interesting, and I think it's also quite useful in real life, not only for the exam. So actually this is a good idea that they introduced it for the exam. So try to understand it, and actually to pay attention to the address ranges here, because actually this is the first thing you have to look at if you see a question like this one. Now, if you want to establish a peering connection between these two VNets, in this case this is possible, and this is because the address spaces for virtual networks don't overlap. And I draw them in yellow because for some people it's easier to remember if it's also visual. So the address ranges, so this address range and this address range, they don't overlap. So you can establish a peering connection.